What's going on, A to Z Sports? Sam Phelan here live for another edition of Titans at 2. I see many of you guys hanging out in the chat and in the lobby beforehand before we jump into it today. And Jack comes in with an early chat and says, this ought to be good. This ought to be good. This is going to be a very good show because I have a lot to talk about and a lot of opinions. You see the title of the show if you are joining me today for Titans at 2, which is today we are going to be dispelling multiple narratives about the 2023 Tennessee Titans. There has been a lot of both on social media, among the fan base, nationally about this Titans team, one on the field, one off the field. And I'm going to tell you why both of them are incorrect and give you a lot of statistical data to back my points up and prove exactly why you should not listen to some of these narratives out there. So it's going to be a very fun, very entertaining show. And every edition of Titans at 2, as you see on the graphic below you, is powered by Dobert Pizza and Rotisserie, where you're sure to find flavor. Dobert Pizza and Rotisserie, located in Green Hills, bringing you a crave-worthy menu with an unexpected yet perfect duo of pizza and rotisserie chicken. They've got offbeat flavor combos made even more delicious when you dunk any of your food into their house-made sauces. They always deliver on flavor and satisfaction at Dobert. So please go and check out my friends at Dobert. Again, I cannot recommend them enough. A Dobert Pizza and Rotisserie. So Titans Rossi wants to know what the scoop is. And so we've got a couple of things to hit here. I think I'm going to save the best for last. So I'm going to start with an on-field narrative for the Tennessee Titans that I think needs to be disproven, dispelled, and really gotten rid of as a whole. And that has to do with the wins at home and losses on the road, and the home road splits for the Titans. They're 4-0 at Nissan Stadium this year. 0-7 away from Nissan Stadium, leading to their 4-7 record on the year. And it is a bit of a coincidence. It does make you raise your eyebrows and ask the question, why do the Titans play better offensively at home? Why do they win football games at home? And they don't do many of those things on the road. Is it something in their game plan? Is it something in the mentality of these players? Is it just the simple execution, or is it luck? I do think there's a coincidence, and I think it has nothing to do with the Titans. But first, I want to show you what Titans quarterback Will Levis had to say about this, what Titans head coach Mike Vrabel had to say about this. Then I'm going to give you some of the facts. Here is answers to the question, how do you explain the difference in this team at home versus on the road?
Any way to explain, Will, the 4-0 at home now and still haven't found a way to win on the road?
No, I guess we got good fans.
Story-wise, you guys are at home 24 points, on the road is like 11. Is there anything that you could put your finger on to say like why it's so different offensively?
I don't want to sit here and say that we've played good defenses, but I know that, that's probably part of it. We have, I think, played good defenses. You look at where the Saints were week 1, and, I felt like that was a good defense. And, Pittsburgh on the road, see the type of defense that they play. And that's probably, being realistic. We know that we have to be better. Right now we're focused on, being better at home because that's where our next game is. And then, attacking those things and just the details and just how critical just a few things are when you're on the road, and the noise and, getting off on the snap count and all those different things that attribute to that. But right now our focus is, preparing to win a division game at home.
So two very different answers right there. One from Will Levis, who kind of just says, yeah, I don't really know. And one from Mike Vrabel, who says, I think we've played some good defenses. I'll tell you my thoughts on this whole thing. Before I do that, a reminder to everybody out there to like the show. If you're tuning in, we got a really good one today. I've got a lot of opinions and thoughts to unpack that are going to, kind of go against what the common knowledge or common thought process is for this Titans team so far. And I appreciate all the likes on the show. Helps get more people in here and involved in the conversation. So go hit that like button before I give you the rest of this answer. I think Mike Vrabel avoided saying the absolute truth here, which is the very simple fact. The only reason the Titans are better at home than they are on the road, and they score more points at home than they do on the road, is the fact that they play better football teams on the road and they play better defenses on the road. I dove into the numbers yesterday, and this home road split thing of like, why can't the Titans figure out to win on the road, I think is absolute nonsense for a lot of reasons. I don't really feel like there is anything to this other than the simple fact you play better teams away from home. The Titans have scored 27, 27, 28, and 17 points in their 4 games at Nissan Stadium. Away from Nissan Stadium, they have scored 15, 3, 16, 16, 16, 6, and 14. Their worst home game has been 17 points. Their best road game is 16 points. But here is the real situation. Average points allowed for the defenses the Titans have played. Cincinnati at home, 19th best defense in the NFL. The Chargers at home, 25th best defense in the NFL. Atlanta at home, 15th best defense in the NFL. Carolina at home, 30th best defense in the NFL. Let's look at the road teams now. New Orleans, they're number 8. Cleveland, they're number 7. Indy is 27. They're a bit of an outlier. Baltimore, number 2. Pittsburgh, number 5. Tampa Bay, number 12. Jacksonville, number 11. 6 of the 7 opponents the Titans have played away from Nissan Stadium this year are top 12 NFL scoring defenses. That's 6 of the top 12. Half of the top 12 defenses the Titans have played this year, and played them all away from Nissan Stadium. None, 0 of the top 4 of the 4 opponents the Titans have played at home are in that top 12, the best being the Atlanta Falcons with the 15th best defense. All 7 of those road opponents that I mentioned that the Titans have played away from Nissan Stadium are in the top 14 in the top half of the league in turnovers created, with many of them in the top 5 of turnovers created as a defense. Then you've got teams like Carolina, who have the fewest turnovers created in the entire NFL, the only team worse than the Titans in that category, and the Atlanta Falcons, who they also played at home, who are tied for the 5th lowest total in the league. Mike Vrabel, as Jack says, is on here. Mike Vrabel is the one that got this right, and he didn't lean all the way into it, but I keep seeing this national narrative of the Titans. If you watch a Titans broadcast, right, you hear it on the broadcast. If you tune into a lot of local media, you hear it being talked about. It seems to be this common subject among fans as well of like, why can't this team win on the road? I don't think it's this team not being able to win on the road. I think it's the very simple fact that you play better teams away from home. That's how the schedule has fallen this year. That's just how the cookie has crumbled. You haven't gotten your games against your cupcake opponents like Carolina on the road, or I think the Titans would have won on the road as well. So Mike Vrabel very much on. Whether you look at scoring defenses, yards allowed, the Titans point scored, turnovers, the teams that have come to Nissan Stadium lack in the defensive categories. And so no surprise why the Titans have averaged well over 20 points per game in those home games. I do think, of course, home field advantage is a factor. It is nice to have your home fans. It is nice to not have to deal with noise when you're trying to get in the huddle and come out of the huddle and get to the line of scrimmage. When you're dealing with your operations, helps with the pre-snap penalties. All of those things, I think, are positives for the Titans. And their pass rush, honestly, has been effective at home and not really on the road, and that could play a factor there. But if you look strictly at the offense and why they have executed is the word that we like to hear at home versus the road, I think you just have to look at who's on the other side of the football. And we need to drop that narrative, in my opinion. I think, playing at home against Indianapolis, You've already seen Indianapolis on the road, and we'll see if they look any different. I don't know. So Titans Rossi says if 2 of those games on the road went our way, we would be in the thick of the AFC South, which is absolutely true. And I do think, it's easy for football fans to have this mindset of like, oh, well, if that one goes the other way, we're winning more games. We're in the mix of things. But there is something to the fact that these road games, I mean, how many of these road games were winnable? I mean, Cleveland, you got beat. I think you got beat pretty handily by Indianapolis, despite the score. Same thing in Baltimore, like 1-score game. Felt like you were outplayed that whole time. You got crushed by Jacksonville. You got beat pretty good by Tampa Bay. New Orleans is probably the only one that could go up in the air that you could toss over, and winning football games and finding a way to win those close games is part of being a good team. You see it in a team like the Minnesota Vikings this year, who won all of those 1-score games last year, have not had the same ability to finish games this year because their roster is not quite as good. And it's led to them having a pretty mediocre season and mediocre record. So I get that that's something that you'll look back on and be like, man, wish we had that one back. But in the grand scheme of things, is probably a good sign about what your football team is. Okay, let's get into the juice here. Let's get into the real hard-hitting narrative that I have some thoughts on that I have to talk about, which has to do with Rand Carthon. And you guys probably all know where I'm going with this and where I'm taking this. But before I do that, I want to remind everybody about my partners over at Doughbird Pizza and Rotisserie. You can grab a seat at the bar and stay a while at Doughbird, sipping on inventive craft cocktails made with daily fresh juices and homemade ingredients, alongside a menu of local beers and wine to pair with every delicious bite. They've got happy hour at Doughbird. It's Monday through Friday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. So 12 minutes from now, happy hour is getting going at Doughbird. Get over there after I finish my Titans at 2 show. After we finish our chats, go to happy hour at Doughbird. Deals start at $5. Today is Tuesday, so they have half-priced bottles of wines all day, and recently announced a brand new Bottle and Bird special that features a bottle of wine, entire rotisserie chicken, and 2 sides for $40 when you dine in. Great deals at Doughbird, a fantastic happy hour that you're going to want to check out. So Doughbird in Green Hills, go and visit my friends over there. All right, let's get to the Rand Carthon topic. Let's get to the juice of this, because I feel very passionately about this, feel very strongly about this. And if you are on Titans Twitter, if you're paying attention to some of the high engagement accounts on Titans Twitter, you've probably seen interactions on a story written by a man named Greg Bedard, who writes for something in Boston Globe, something like that. I don't want to get the outlet wrong, so ignore me if I got that wrong. Who wrote a story about the ongoing discussion about Mike Vrabel potentially becoming a head coach of the New England Patriots. A story that, if you've read my work for A to Z Sports, if you've read or tuned into my shows here on A to Z Sports, I have been very adamant is a nothing burger. I don't think there is any chance in hell Mike Vrabel winds up being the New England Patriots head coach, for reasons pretty much across the board. Number one being, I don't think New England would ever give up the amount of draft capital it would take to go get Mike Vrabel, because I don't think Amy Adams Strunk wants to move on from him. And I think when you look at the recent history of what Sean Payton cost the Denver Broncos to go get as recently as last offseason, you probably have to even go above that, given Mike Vrabel's recent history as a coach of the year and the leverage the Titans would have. It doesn't seem realistic. And for no other reason, because I think Amy Adams Strunk wants Mike Vrabel to stay. She thinks she has the right coach. When she fired John Robinson in December of last year, Amy Adams Strunk made a statement to the NFL world and to Titans fans that, hey, John was the problem. That's what she identified, that John Robinson was the problem, and Mike Vrabel was the solution. And the reason I know that this was part of what she said in her move is because Amy and the Titans were not shy about giving Mike more control over personnel decisions, more control over his roster, a more dominant role in the Titans hierarchy than just a normal head coach. So by removing John Robinson and keeping Mike Vrabel on board, a guy who John Robinson hired, Amy Adams Strunk committed to Mike Vrabel for the future. And when she hired Rand Carthon as a collaborator who is supposed to come in and work alongside Mike Vrabel, the understanding was that these two were going to work together. They had a similar vision, and they together were part of this solution. So moving on from Mike Vrabel, 1 year removed from a bad roster and no cap room, would be very silly for Amy Adams Strunk, in my opinion. That's not a commitment to the vision that you put into place a year ago this time. So I think Amy, despite what's, Mitchell in the chat is saying, I think Amy Adams Strunk is one of the better owners in the National Football League, actually, with her commitment to winning, with the amount of money that she has spent in free agency, with the amount of impact that she has had on the Nashville community. And by the way, getting herself a new stadium in the city of Nashville, which many owners are not willing to pay for, which Amy is footing a lot of the bill for the new stadium. Amy has done some great things with the Titans to bring them a completely irrelevant bottom of the barrel franchise. The Tennessee Titans were. It's objective fact. They were as irrelevant as possible. Amy has made them very relevant in recent years. Nashville is booming, and the Titans have been booming with them. And that ultimately is a huge testament to their ownership and to their coaching staff and across the board. So disagree with you. I think Amy Adams Strunk has done a tremendous job. But this report then comes out from Greg Bedard. This is after, by the way, Diana Rossini had made comments saying that Amy did believe she had the right head coach, that she expected Mike Vrabel to stay. Wasn't exactly a huge breaking news, but that Amy felt good about where they were with Mike Vrabel. Greg Bedard then publishes this. Many believe that Vrabel was put in the position of being a strong head coach and wanted the hiring of Rand Carthon as general manager. That is incorrect. That was a shotgun marriage by ownership. NFL sources believe the league had a heavy hand in owner Amy Adams Strunk hiring Rand Carthon, a top minority candidate. Vrabel and Carthon had no previous relationship, and it's believed they don't have much of one now. There have been issues with Carthon's job performance even back to his 49ers days. League sources believe that Vrabel could be looking for a way to force his way out of Tennessee after this season, and the Patriots would be an obvious landing spot, if not the front runner. Could the Crafts trade Belichick to the Commanders, Chargers, or Panthers and then secure Vrabel? It's not out of the realm of possibility, and I'm just going to get this out of the way. I didn't want to show this on this show. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to write about it, but I had to. Over the recent days, I've had to, because, and we'll get to what Greg Bedard had to say when he was asked about some of his comments. I think he lies, straight up lies in here 3 times, or at least makes uneducated statements. From my knowledge of the situation, and I have some evidence to back a lot of these points up that we're going to talk about, there are multiple lies in here, multiple inaccuracies. Number one, suggesting that the league had an impact on Amy Adams Strunk hiring Rand because he's a minority candidate is not only wildly disrespectful to Rand Carthon as a professional and general manager, it's wildly disrespectful to Amy Adams Strunk as an owner who has made a commitment to bettering her football team and a commitment to this fan base. I think that is a major, very disrespectful comment towards both of those individuals that is completely unfounded and really has zero, nothing to back it up behind a very vague NFL source. NFL source can mean absolutely anything, and I don't believe that this source is credible whatsoever. And you know as much because he follows it up by saying it's not believed that they don't have much. It's believed they don't have much of a relationship now. Speaking about Vrabel and Rand Carthon, which I pretty much know to be not true, and I think that plays out every single day. Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon have a fine relationship. There's no issues in that relationship. It is a collaborative effort. The team isn't very good right now. I think they kind of knew coming into the year that they weren't going to be able to fix all the problems in one offseason. That's inaccurate. To my knowledge of the situation, there is no reason to suggest Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon have a strained relationship at all. I think part of the purpose of hiring Rand in the first place was the fact that he didn't have a relationship with Mike. He wasn't this buddy of Mike Vrabel that you could bring in and hire like the Titans have done in the past This was a guy with a new, fresh perspective from a winning organization who did a lot of things well, which brings me to the final lie of this report, that there have been issues with Carthon's job performance even back to his 49ers days. And this is absolutely untrue in every single way. Number one, where, right? Where? Please tell me where Rand Carthon had a job performance issue with the San Francisco 49ers. I think a lot of people, like I saw somebody online pointing to the Trey Lance draft pick. If you think Rand Carthon was the one responsible for drafting Trey Lance, I don't think you have an understanding of what Rand's job was with the 49ers. He really took on two primary responsibilities. One of those things, or two primary responsibilities, and I see some of the chat here. Let me actually get to the chat real quick, because Jack says Rand has proven himself in Tennessee, and then Jack says, do you and Buck know each other? Jack, yes, I do know my guy Buck Rising. Titan Fox says, have to trust Sam on this one. He's been in the room with both of them, and you could sense tension like that. There's no tension between these two, and I think that's a good question, right? When that relationship between Mike Vrabel and John Robinson was starting to boil a little bit, they maintained a professional relationship, but you could tell that they were not always on the same page, that they were not always operating eye to eye. I have gotten absolutely no reason to believe that, or for Greg Bedard to write that there have been issues with Carthon's job performance, even back to San Francisco. So the two things that Rand Carthon did for the Niners was, number one, amateur scouting of college players for undrafted free agents and players to draft in the late rounds of the draft. That's typically how a front office works when it comes to personnel and scouting, is that Rand Carthon oversaw the scouting department. A general manager, a head coach, a coaching staff takes a good really controls a lot of those first few rounds of the draft. Those first few picks are going to be a GM's guys. Late in the draft, a lot of GMs, John Lynch being one of them over in San Francisco, will resort to their scouting department, who have been in the weeds watching mid-major football, watching guys further down on depth charts, really diving into individual players and saying, okay, who's a good pick here? So I wrote some stuff down because this was stuff that was in the article that I wrote about Rand Carthon when he first got hired by the Titans, that David Lombardi had a report that said the lower rounds are the scouting department's rounds. That's where their operation shines. And Rand Carthon operated that part of the 49ers machine. The results indisputably suggest he did a great job. Now, I came up with a list of people that the 49ers acquired in rounds 5 through 7 since Rand Carthon was hired in 2017. So since he joined the Niners, drafted by the 49ers in the last 3 rounds of the draft: Richie James, George Kittle, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Brock Purdy, Elijah Mitchell, Jawan Jennings. It's a good list. It's a lot of hits in the last 3 rounds of the draft. Part of this 49ers machine that you've seen, part of what makes them so good and a perennial threat to win the Super Bowl right now, is how often they've hit in the back of the draft. They have maximized some of those picks. That's on scouting. That falls on Rand Carthon's resume. The other job that he did was in pro personnel. And one thing that Rand was public about sharing was basically what his job would be, is to watch players from around the league, specifically impending free agents, guys that were going to be available in free agency at the end of the year. He would scout them, put some scouts assigned to them, watch their tape, watch how they were used, identify which players are a good fit for the 49ers and the system the 49ers run and what Kyle Shanahan likes to do, as well as for their locker room. Then when free agency comes around, put those players in front of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and allow those guys to then make decisions about who they sign and how much money they offer each one of them. But Rand's job was to identify the talent that they could get in free agency. So here's a stat for you. Back this past offseason, The Athletic did a study that looked into essentially bang for your buck in free agency for every NFL franchise. It was using an approximate value stat from Football Reference that is essentially like an overall value stat of a player, like WAR for baseball. An all-encompassing stat trying to figure out how much value a particular player had to their team's success. And so what they did was look at the value brought in by players from free agency compared to the amount of money spent on those players in free agency to figure out which teams were getting the most bang for their buck on the open market. The Tennessee Titans in the final 3 years of John Robinson ranked 14th in free agent cash spent. And unsurprisingly, they were dead last in average value added per million, 32nd in the league. In the final 3 years of John Robinson, the Titans were the worst team in the sport at adding value for an affordable price in free agency. They got the least bang for their buck. Guys like Vic Beasley, Bud Dupree, Jadeveon Clowney, Julio Jones, guys that did not live up to the money the Titans were paying them. You combine that with some of the botched draft picks that Robinson had, not hard to see why the Titans got into this spot to begin with, where they had no cap space and very little talent. Now let's look at what Ran Carthon and the San Francisco 49ers did. With Carthon overseeing those operations from 2020 to 2022, the Niners were second in the NFL in average value added per million. While the Titans have been good, while Titans free agent players were good for 52 AV added, the 49ers players contributed 68 AV while spending $52 million less. Ran Carthon knows how to get bang for his buck. He's done it with the 49ers time and time and time again. League minimum signings, late in the draft picks that contribute. And hey, there have been some misses. It hasn't been perfect, but what have we started to see with the Titans? Daniel Brunskill, like bare minimum pay, basically paid nothing. Chris Hubbard literally got the league minimum. Both have been solid starters at times for the Titans this year. Azeez Al-Shire has been pretty good. He's getting paid essentially nothing compared to the rest of the linebacker market. Sean Murphy-Bunting getting paid almost nothing. Has been pretty solid when he's been out there. Andre Dillard, huge flop, huge miss. Ran Carthon would take that one back. I can almost guarantee. Jalen Duncan, a 6th-round pick, got his first start at left tackle, didn't look too bad. And hey, these draft picks, Peter Skoronski, Will Levis, Tajay Spears, Jalen Duncan, like across the board, not that bad right now by the Titans. Like all those guys, I think you feel pretty good about. So at this point in his Titans tenure, Ran Carthon has hit on a good number of draft picks, given you a lot of reason to believe that he can get affordable free agents to contribute. And as the Titans get more cap space and more draft picks, I don't think it's unrealistic to think that Carthon and Vrabel are going to, together with their collaborative vision, build this thing up into a winner. But to suggest, as Greg Bedard does here, that there were issues with Carthon's job performance even back to his 49ers days is completely not backed by any piece of data whatsoever. Any piece of data. Everything that Ran did pretty much thrived with the 49ers. What is the issue with the job performance? He doesn't say. He's then asked by Jared Stillman on the radio yesterday about his comments. And I'm just going to read the quote because I think once I read this quote and you guys hear what Greg Bedard had to say for himself, you'll understand just how ridiculous that is. My guy Easton Freeze tweeted this out there if you want to read it for yourself at Easton Freeze on X. Greg Bedard was asked about the issues of Ran Carthon's job performance even back to his 49ers days. Quote, well, I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't know the facts. I'm just relating first like why Vrabel might not think the Titans an advantage position for him, and from what I've been told, and like you, I don't know Ran Carthon at all. I mean, from what I know about him, he came up in the right way through the NFL and working his way through. He worked for a great organization, the 49ers. I don't know him at all. I know him to be, from talking to people, certainly very personable. I'm the kind of guy who gets along with everybody and things like that, but like, as far as, Rand's job performance, I mean, I ask people like, well, how come, why wouldn't that work? And that's the feedback that I got. I don't know him at all. I'm not going into specifics because it's not like I'm reporting a story on the Titans and, making allegations, but you get the point. Absolutely ridiculous. What a backpedal. What a walk back. What a guy who got caught with his pants down. Greg Bedard. Clown show. What are we doing? I mean, it's not like I reported a story. You published it. You idiot. You published it. This is a guy who published a story about a team that was not the New England Patriots, trying to get his clicks and interaction for the Patriots, got caught with his pants down because somebody caught him, put it out there on Twitter, and everybody in the Titans world looked at it and said, that's not true. And now he's walking it back when he's put on the hot seat and you put his feet to the fire a little bit. So Titans fans worried about this. Titans fans who gave any sort of thought to this, don't. Greg Bedard, absolute clown show here. Nothing, as far as I'm concerned, that he writes in this piece is valid, is worth listening to, or holds any sort of weight as far as where the Titans are going to be. Listen to the people who are in the rooms. Listen to the people who are on the field. Listen to the people who are around this team. I don't think Mike Vrabel's going anywhere. Ran Carthon is not going anywhere. Amy Adams Strunk is going to do right by her people, and she hired Rand Carthon for a reason. Believe that. He has done, in my opinion, a good job with both the Jeffrey Simmons extension, with the free agency, with his early draft picks, with going out and getting D-Hop to position the Titans to build a winner in the future. And sometimes you just need to remain patient. So that's the narratives. Those are two narratives about the Titans. I promised you guys it would be a good one today. Dispelling narratives about the Tennessee Titans. We're going to be just fine. This team right now is chaotic. It's not always pretty. Things are going to be just fine in Nashville, Tennessee, regardless of what Greg Bedard or anybody from New England, for that matter, has to say. Reminder real quick about Doberd, for those of you that are still hanging out with me and listening to me rant, because I think I might need to head over to Doberd Happy Hour after this show and after the headache that Greg Bedard is causing me. I mentioned all the options for you when you dine in, but even if takeout is more your style, go grab the Family on the Fly bundle to feed the whole family, because Doberd is the go-to spot for to-go food in the neighborhood. They're located in Green Hills with convenient parking to get in and out. It really couldn't be any easier, and the food couldn't be any better, where you're sure to find flavor, Doberd, pizza, and rotisserie. Guys, that is all I've got for you. I have, had to get into the weeds a little bit and, stick up for Amy Adams Strunk and Rand Carthon. Like I said, it hasn't been perfect, but we got to not let these narratives control or even just have a role nationally in how people view the Tennessee Titans right now. That's all I got for you guys. Make sure you like the show before you go. It's going to help me out on the back end here as more people come back to listen to what I have to say. So hit that thumbs up button before you head out of here. Tune into Buck Rising on A to Z Sports Primetime later tonight, and keep it peeled on A2ZSports.com for all of my written content covering the team throughout the week as well. Till next time, tighten up. I'll see you guys later.